emotions running high. We're here to talk football, Austin FC, our pride. CG&E will take you on this ride. Week by week, side by side. In section 1, 2, 3, we're the rowdiest in town. The Pirates team and Uncle Dave and Big Fudge all around. We sing our songs, we chant as one. Through thick and thin, the match day's just begun. In the North End, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow, the North End will never let go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the second Emergency Green Smoke live stream of the week. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Sitting here on a Thursday. We kind of were prepping for a live stream today, but not this one. How you feeling, my friend?
Excited, man. Super excited. This is fun. This is going to be fun to talk about here. The implications, that's the theme, I think, today with this live stream. Obviously, we were prepping for a much more, sad kind of live stream with the official news of Buka, but
which is going to still come.
Yes, that will happen. Hopefully got most of my whining out when we caught it live on the John Bell live stream here. But I'm excited, man. Saw some couple comments in there and everything floating around. I think this is a good get.
Yeah. You might be a little bit more excited if I wasn't rubbing it in your face that I nailed it this morning for the last 4 hours. But let's check in on the chat before we get to Austin's newest player. I see Mackie in here mixing it up with everybody before the stream. We see Jackson in here, the Trefoil, Carlos saying, let's keep the North End podcast guys busy and have them do a live stream every day until Christmas. Look, if you keep bringing us good players, no problem with that. On my end, see Brian in here. I did see Mike earlier. We got the podcast. We got P Mike. I saw Mike Crignola, Ari's, Jorge in here saying time to go get Christian Espinoza. Ooh. We'll see, man. I don't know if we will have space for another DP. We'll talk about it. The Mighty Frog in here as well. Let's get to the news here. I believe it was Manuel Veth who put the first report out there this morning that this deal was coming. Then I believe it was Verde Nation amplified that. That allowed us to catch on to it. Then Bogert tweets about it happening. And finally, the club confirming that Austin FC has acquired Canadian international winger Jayden Nelson from the Vancouver Whitecaps in exchange for the 17th pick in today's MLS SuperDraft, which is going on right now. And depending on how long we hang out here with all of our frenzy, we might make it to our second round pick here on the live stream, so we could do a little deep dive on some random collegiate player that Austin may select here. But in exchange for that pick, and then a total of $1.25 million in GAM, which I think, and probably rightfully so, immediately made a lot of Austin FC fans pretty wide-eyed at that number. That is split between 2 seasons, 700K GAM of this coming season, and then 550K in that 2027 season. And you know how I feel, E, and I will certainly let the people know, but what's your take here now that we know exactly what the compensation is? Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into this, especially with what we're thinking is going on with the roster here.
Yeah, I think the factors and the implications of what's going on moving forward tell a lot with how much money was spent here. If you want a good look at this dude, just go watch the highlights right now from the opening match versus Portland.
Sure.
1 goal, 3
to
assists.
be fair, they were up a man in that game.
They were, but I mean, still, we talked about, how much we were going to miss the speed aspect of Buka and the fact that he was the one guy on the offensive side of the ball who we knew could really take the top off the defense. This dude has all that speed that Buka possessed. He's definitely not as savvy on the ball as Buka was, but this guy can really, really fly. And a clear upgrade over the other wing spots that we have right now. Obviously, much better than Hot Air O'Brien. I don't see how you can say he's not better than Robbie Taylor over there. Younger prospect that can really lean into some growth here. We have him under contract now till what, 28? You said, I believe
28. Yeah, option for 29.
You gotta like that, and I think the contract is the important thing. I don't want to steal this from you too much, but I think it will be a bloviating ZG live stream here, y'all. We're busting
I'm gonna
out,
be extra annoying.
We're busting out private DMs here. We're getting so like things are coming. But when you look at the contract, I think that's kind of what played into the price tag here. Like, he's on a good deal. You got him till 28. He's 23 years old. And I'm excited, man. I really am. I think this also kind of solidifies and signals that we're switching formations here. And this is a get that fits that style formationally that we're going to be looking
he
towards.
Can play wing back, right?
He can play some wing back. So we're going to have that opportunity to see him in that role if that's what we're going with. But with the John Bell get and everything like that, I think, and how we were continuously seeing that 5-back look later in the season, I think you're looking at a potential formational switch moving forward here.
Well, like, what side did basically no offense come from last year? Left side. So you get a left winger, you get that, left-sided center back in John Bell, right? He can also play left back. So certainly addressing that left side here to begin the offseason. Before we get into the roster mechanisms that may be at play here, let's go through the bio. I see some other folks filtering in here as we start the stream off. We see Jake in here saying it's a good transfer. The interesting follow-up, what position is he? Iron Verde saying instant starter or depth P. This is a starter to me.
Yeah.
We have to see, right? The offseason's far from over. Hey, see Verde Nation in here. What's up, Logan? And then, see Mike saying left wing in here. Jake's calling it. He'll be good. I like that prediction there.
There we go.
P Mike, little teaser there. So let's talk about the player here, Ian. Jayden Nelson. If you read through the press release, you'll know a decent bit of this, but Canadian national, born in Brampton, Ontario. Nelson, he has Canadian and Jamaican citizenship and joined the Toronto FC Academy at age 14. Made his pro debut in that Toronto system in April 2019 for their second team. And like John Bell, right, who got some time with the Revs 2 squad at USL League One, or at the USL League One level, that's where Jayden Nelson made his Toronto FC debut at the USL League One level. He then signed a homegrown contract with Toronto FC's first team in January 2020, made his MLS debut in the MLS's back tournament there in that crazy 2020 COVID year. Age 17 for his MLS debut there, right? Just a few weeks older than our own Owen Wolf made his MLS debut, right, at age 16. So scored his first MLS goal April 9th, 2022 against Real Salt Lake. He was a 19-year-old player at that point. And then February 2023, he was transferred from Toronto to Rosenborg, which is a squad in the Norwegian First Division, and made 35 appearances for Rosenborg across the pond, scored 5 goals across those 35 games. But then at the start of the 24-25 season, right, because then he was on that European calendar, Rosenborg loaned him to Ulm in the Bundesliga 2. So went over to the German system over there, playing in the second division for about half a season. And then once that transfer window opened up, took his opportunity to go ahead and jet back home, but did not rejoin Toronto. Of course, we were getting him from the Whitecaps. He signed with Vancouver in January of this year. And like you mentioned, goal and 3 assists. He was like maybe the player of the match day if you go back to opening day, right, with the 4 goal contributions in that 4-1 win. But made 40 appearances total across all competitions this season for the Whitecaps. And we know how awesome a season that club just had, right? Winning the Canadian Championship is certainly the least impressive of these 3 accomplishments, but they also reached the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? Maybe something kind of forgot to time now by the fans of the other 29 teams, right? Especially because they got their ass whooped so bad in that final. But the run that they made was extremely impressive. Going south of the border a couple times with 2 borders for them, and rotating guys and pulling off huge upsets on the road against those Mexican sides. And then of course we just watched them, 3 pings off the post away from potentially winning that MLS Cup on the road, but runners up in the league playoffs this year. All in all, across those 40 games with the Caps, 3 goals, 11 assists for Jayden Nelson. And I mentioned the Canadian national, right? He had 13 youth appearances across the U15 and U17 levels for Canada, 5 goals in those 13 appearances. And now he's made 12 caps by age 23 for the senior national team, 2 goals to his name. Again, this is a young, 2 years younger than Danny, 2 and some change. Like, this is a young player who I think you could still say he's aging out of that prospect level, but this is still a very exciting profile of a player. And if you look, right, just like with any a player personnel move, and especially looking for comments from randoms on the internet, there's going to be some that hate this move for Vancouver, that love it for Vancouver and are fine to see him go. The majority of what I've seen, man, is like I think the rational Vancouver fan understands why a move like this has to be made after the season they just had. But I don't think the overwhelming sentiment is that they're happy to see him go. And I've seen a lot of people saying Austin got a good one.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he kind of fell out of the rotation later on in this season. But if you look at the emergence of dudes like Ali Ahmed and stuff like that, Galt gets healthy in the playoffs. There just wasn't a lot of minutes for him to eat up, especially with how well Ahmed was playing. But earlier in the year, he was a huge part of what they were trying to do. And he was doing it well. Again, I do think this is a good get. You mentioned the Canadian team, a very, very good up-and-coming team on the international level, and he's found a way to play for that club. So I'm excited about this, man. Again, another, just like when we're looking for ways to generate goals, this is a guy who can do that with just his speed alone. I know some people talked about, and as you mentioned, you're going to get both sides of the spectrum when you're looking at Vancouver fans' reactionary takes to this, but he can generate goals just with his speed. Struggled a little bit with his finishing, which is something that we have all dealt with here as Austin FC fans.
Fit right in.
But man, we were really concerned because, like we talked about with Buka, the elite level of speed, that is something that you just can't find. It just you either have it or you don't. And this is a dude that definitely has it. Again, I would encourage people to go watch that Portland highlights. Yeah, I know they were down a man early because of Kamal Miller, but if you're just looking for some look at the Jets on this dude,
look at
that game in particular is one that was just like, holy shit, this guy is way faster than a lot of players out there. So again, it's a good get, and you split that game up 2 years, man. I like it.
Yeah. Let's check in on the chat here before we look at some of the stats. You see Stefan here saying, do you think they brought John and Jayden for each other? Maybe, right? John Bell, Jayden Nelson on that left side.
Am I missing something just because the Jays?
Like Messi and co. Yeah, we're just
that's a good ceiling outcome.
We're putting our own band together here. Look who's in here, man. Guest services employee will provide earbuds to anybody if it gets too loud. Shout out to Mitchie here. We see Kyle in here saying, or Kylie, excuse me, saying, should we say goodbye to Robert Taylor? I know E would be excited about that.
I don't Is anyone wouldn't be excited? Would anyone not be excited about that at this point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, again, it takes into account what he's hitting the books at, and the fact that now with this, this get here, and we're talking about adding TAM guys, potentially looking at, are we a 3-3 build? Are we a 2-4 build? Where is this money coming from? I was concerned after moving on from Buka for a loss. Like, yes, this ownership group has been willing to spend, but at some point, the coffers run out unless you have some sort of unlimited crypto scam going on that you can just keep pumping this shit going. But like Robert Taylor, man, I hope is an afterthought. I hope O'Brien is an afterthought. If you're looking at the cap sheet on the northendpodcast.com, those are the two glaring ones that scream to me buyout and just get them off the books. Let them walk free, because you're not getting anything for those dudes in return. And getting them off the books, opening up some more senior slots is what I think is the most important thing there.
Well, now, dude, all of this shit is in flux. So now that you brought in who we think is the starting guy out there wide left, Hunter O'Brien is a traditional right winger. I think Robert, especially if you get O'Brien a green card, dude, that if you get O'Brien a green card, then Taylor is the casualty for me.
Yeah.
Because you need somebody on the right.
We've
but I'm fine if you get rid of both.
We've seen the affinity for Nico and Hot Air. You know what I mean? Like, he's had him before. He knows the system. I think he's a dude that he likes. So yes, I feel you there.
So checking in on the chat. Good to see Phil West of Very All Day in here. And he's keeping up with the super draft for us, saying the Whitecaps just used that 17th overall pick to select midfielder Zach Ramsey out of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, maybe? UWM soccer.
Probably.
So I see Hudson in here saying, what would y'all guess at a salary? We don't have to guess because we did not sign him to a new deal. We're just taking over that contract, like E mentioned, that goes through 28 with an option for the 29 season. Or again, that with the new schedule structure, that is his contract is guaranteed through the middle of the 28-29 season, and we have an option for half of the 29-30 season. I promise I will get those sheets updated for the new schedule this weekend there at the northendpodcast.com. Jake talking about going to check out those Jayden Nelson highlights. It was Portland's home opener. It was the first game of the year for Portland and Vancouver. And Brian saying, also remember the cap space this frees up compared to Buka. It's actually not that much. Yeah. It's like $400K. But what the other things it can do, we will certainly talk about. Oh, okay, Steph, clarifying for us here. We're a little slow on the uptake sometimes. They're both Jamaican and coming from the Pacific Northwest. Okay. You knew there was something more behind that. Mike saying to Mitch, don't take my megaphone, Mitch. Johnny saying Tom Bogert mentioned, and I know that soccer-wise was, if they're not still live here during the draft, they were about an hour ago. Johnny mentioning that Bogert said that Jayden Nelson could also technically play in the midfield. And I think if you go over, let me go ahead and pull up some more of our screen shares here. If we pull up his transfer market page, you can see attacking midfield is something that at least Transfer Market has games in his game log where he was positioned in that central midfield. So,
I'm wondering if you're do with the Gauld injury.
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, I did not get a chance to go back and look through the game log and see where those appearances were coming from, because I don't know with the player data here on Transfer Market. Like, I don't know how far back that goes in the player's career. Like, if it goes career long, maybe he was in the midfield when he was in Norway or something, right? And has never been utilized like that here. But, I mean, you also see, right, again, like, we poo-poo the transfer market values here in the North End, but you can always use it as a little bit of a reference point, and the market value 2.5 euros there is his current market value. I would imagine that's a pretty big increase in terms of how the community views the player compared to an O'Brien or a Taylor. And checking out some of, right, we go over to the FB Ref page. You can see the scouting report there. We get the little radial chart. You see that, man? Like, I think this highlights the speed. 97th percentile in successful take-ons, 88th percentile in those progressive passes received, right? So launching that ball forward to the speedy guy, like, it's kind of one in, one out in terms of the profile of player here, right? Like, Jayden Nelson is not, to this point of his career, from what I know about him, he's not Osman Bukhari, right?
Yeah.
But if he can be 80-85% of that, that's pretty great.
He did get a significant amount of his starts on the right wing as well.
And here's the comparison between the two.
Yeah. And
that favors Jayden Nelson.
Agreed. And, we chatted about this before we jumped on here. I do think that this has a little bit to do with the quality of teams, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, that Jayden was working with the other players around there. But you see it there, man. And as I mentioned, he can play some right wing. He got a lot of right wing starts last year. Sabi starts coming on in Vancouver. Ali Ahmed starts coming on in Vancouver. So they had these kind of wing positions that were a bit of a log jam. They moved him around a little bit. I've been looking a little bit here, and obviously I know that everything on FOTMob is not gospel, but I haven't been able to find any attacking mid positions for him. But I would assume, most of these guys are versatile that can play a little bit of a different position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him on either wing, but I am leaning towards the left wing for sure.
I'm checking back in on the chat here. Phil clarifying for me, saying not just University of Washington, the national champions at the NCAA level.
Oh yeah, that was a good game. I caught the highlights of that.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Look at you. Look at the soccer guy now.
We're playing NC State,
Okay, there you go.
Make sure my boys went down.
There you go. And Phil's alma mater there.
Oh, nice.
Look who's in here. Look at Pilly. Shout out Guest Services, best in the city. And P. Mike, we'll get to this here in a second. Pretty straightforward question for the boys. Do you like this move? The trade/money. Good to see Kevmo in here saying Jayden's stats way better than Osman's. And this is also a point I wanted to make. And I think you also said basically the exact same thing about 60 seconds ago. You drop Osman into the Whitecaps team where Nelson was.
Yeah.
He probably has better stats too.
I like the
else
trade
for you on these?
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes, absolutely.
All right, time to hit the button.
Rumors, whispers, made up trades, consequences we never weighed. Logic's thin, the mic is hot. Let's pretend this means a lot. Taking shots from way downtown, hoping no one writes it down. Hot takes flying without hesitation. It's time for some reckless speculation.
All right, just to cover myself, protect myself legally here, E. Look, man, that is a lot of GAM for a team that doesn't have a ton. We got, 44,000 that's rolling over from last year to this year, and trading $700K of the, I could go to our cap sheets here because we do have that as a reference. You get $3.28 million in GAM this year, spending $700 in a trade when you're going to have to allocate most of that to the players that are already on the roster or those couple spots that we need to fill. So last night, naturally, as I do, E, I'm sitting there thinking about the roster entirely too much. And I texted you one of my normal rants that I will. And, you put it to the side. You read it when you can. But here's what I said. And I will preface this by saying, as soon as we got off the stream on Tuesday, I think I either texted you or we were hanging out afterwards talking right here. And I said, if we go 2-4 GAM, I'm going to be pissed.
Me too.
So last night I texted you. Naturally, the Buka stuff has my head spinning about the roster. Thinking more about the 2-4 build, you could still splash some cash around, and it could be advantageous for this season if we did something like this. Spend on an attacking U22. You could try a home run swing for a cash trade for Diego Luna. Something like that doesn't work out, go grab one from outside the league. Next point, sign Owen Wolf. And if you go 2-4, I think this is happening. Sign Owen Wolf to a U22 deal, filling the fourth U22 slot. He gets a huge raise, potentially up to around $800K, but his cap hit stays $200K. You could give Owen Wolf a 300% raise to jump onto a U22 spot. You grab a max TAM, chance creating 10, right? You got all your TAM, and then you get the $2 million extra GAM in the coffers to build out the rest of the roster. And remember, you have to use that $2 million GAM in the season it is awarded by taking that roster path. So with that $2 million, you could easily afford another max TAM guy, and then you use the rest of that 2 million TAM on the existing players. And then I said trade offer to Vancouver for Jayden Nelson, for example. Now that is an O'Brien upgrade. And I'll give myself a little pat on the head for that. That's good work.
That is good work right there. And I did say I ain't reading all that.
Well, I wasn't finished. I said, then you sell Owen. Next offseason or after the sprint season, there's $3 million GAM in the coffers to keep the expensive senior roster guys you probably signed this year, and you can switch to a 3-3 with him gone. If they expand the cap, meaning the league, or create more roster/DP spots by then, great. But something like that is how you could potentially accumulate legit GAM coffers going forward. And the last time we saw Roto, he was waving a sheet of paper in our face saying we have no GAM. And then you can see E said, oh, I ain't reading all that. The Church of Roto is burnt. And then I sent you the gif of Roto waving the paper in your face. And that was the end of our conversation.
In my defense, I get texts like this at least twice a week. I've had to read as to why Malachi Branham is the next 3-and-D elite
that was
wing
Blake
player.
Wesley, and that was Lojo's
Blake
fault,
Wesley, what have you. Obviously, still pretty upset about the Buka move there, but I guess we're just never beating the shadow allegations that we're part of the front office at this point. Because this
Dude,
team
Logan messaged me this morning because you knew about this, didn't you?
This team is being ran by two doofuses on a live stream right now. No, I got to get hats off, man. Yeah, and then when I got the text this morning saying, "Oh, we just traded for Jayden Nelson," I was like, "No fucking way did that just happen." So hope you're enjoying that bath, B, because yeah, this is heating up in here now.
This was not the first time I thought of that. Shout out to the stat man, Tim Thompson, for going back in a Slack chat, remembering that I also mentioned this on December 10th, saying Jayden Nelson, an interesting trade target for left-wing depth, contract through 28 with a 29 option, still only 23 years old, and on $414K. So that's why I've been giggling this entire morning, because out of all the players in the fucking world that Roto targets, I got one.
I nailed it. So say someone awesome next time you text me. We'll get them in here.
Let me raise our expectations a little bit. I did say Diego Luna. I think that would be
shit. That happened.
An upgrade.
Good Lord.
So let's check in on the chat before we get to the roster sheets here. See where I picked up. Let's see. We need Verde Nation to give us some Azuni trade rumors. I mean, you got to get those Google alerts going, Logan. Let's see. Steph's got to go back to work. Good to see. Hey, the Leslie's in here.
There you
Good
go.
to see. Hey, dude. Ag's birthday yesterday. Happy belated, Ag.
Oh shit, Sagittarius gang. What up?
It's birthday week, dude, here at the North End. So let's see. Yeah, Ari's pointing out, and I have said that publicly. I told Brad Stuver that you were the NBA atheist in my phone, and Kevmo pointing out, if you text me something that long, I'm blocking you,
brother.
That's why he's on record.
I deal with it all the time, bro. All the time. That's why it's usually type all caps back. Shut up. I ain't reading that.
And I lost Aggie at Cell. Oh, and it's coming, my friend.
It's happening, bro. Happen. Just you need to accept it now. It is happening.
Zisan Al Gaib. Then I didn't text you were signing Diego Luna. I said we should make a big cash offer for him. This is not Haggy.
Oh,
who's got the login?
Oh shit.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the sheets here, E, because and this is another thing I don't think we discussed this already in the almost half hour we've been going here. Jayden Nelson at the moment occupies a 9th and non-existent international slot on the Austin FC roster. Of course, if Osman is indeed transferred, as we expect him to be in the next couple days, then that fits snugly into that open 8th slot. But I believe that next year, because this has always been a little bit of a unfair competitive balance or competitive advantage for those Canadian teams, dude. Americans count as domestics for the Canadian teams, but the Canadians don't count as domestics for the US-based teams. Apparently, that is being rectified in 2026 and beyond. So I don't expect Jayden Nelson to take up an international slot at all by the time we get to the beginning of the season, which makes this move even better, having this guy under contract for the next 4 years or so at that contract number, right? Again, his guaranteed or his base salary was $360K last year with the Whitecaps, guaranteed comp of $414. And again, you go over to the cap sheet and you look at those positional peers. Hodder Obrion on just over $500,000 last season. Robert Taylor, $633. Again, dude, I think the balance, I think I'm shifting back towards get rid of Robert Taylor instead of Obi now.
I agree. And just to go back to the international spot for Canadians, boy, what a ridiculous concept.
Yeah, that's
we have Canadian teams in the fucking league, you doofuses.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. So yes, I'm right there. Obviously, Osman, it seems all but done at this point. You can also acquire more international spots. So like, this is not a big pressing issue for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, man, it's a good get. It really fucking is. And he is again. Who was it? Was it Iron Verde? You asked if he's going to be a starter. Yes, he's coming in here and he's starting. He only lost minutes in Vancouver because Ali Ahmed and Sabi came on like gangbusters. Sabi
played great down the stretch.
They were fantastic, both of them. You couldn't take them off the pitch. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that doesn't necessarily isn't an indictment on Jayden Nelson, but those other two guys were one of the biggest reasons as to why Vancouver was making such an incredible run this entire season, particularly later on when they were really just like scorching.
Yeah. We see both Aries and Phil helping us out, pointing out that there is talk that those Canadians will be domestic next year. Brian saying MLS is going to MLS. And that's why we say we love this league. We hate this league. And Jackson saying, do y'all think the big thing with Osman was his family not being able to come over here? It was actually Verde Nation that pulled, and we'll talk about this more on that potential Osman goodbye stream. That, who knows when that's going to happen. Thought it was going to be today. But as Verde Nation went and found a more extensive interview with the reporter that initially reported that move over there in Poland, and he confirmed that it was Osman's, I don't remember if his wife or girlfriend, but significant other, apparently I think had some sort of visa to be over here, at least visiting, and then that wasn't going to be able to be renewed. So this was, it appears, 100% Buka saying, I can't be here anymore because my family can't come with me. And I think he's has a Serbian passport, but wants to go to can't go to a non-EU country because of that significant other, I believe. So, but hey, at least that sucks. We'll get into that more later, but I was at least a little bit relieved, but that wasn't just us flailing, that it was actually, a family thing. But that continues to be an issue here. Continues to be an issue for us.
Continues to be an issue, and it sucks. And who are we to question if someone should want to be with their fucking family or not? Like,
right.
There's no way I can hold that against the organization. There's no way that I can hold that against Buka being unhappy with the situation. And I said that on the other live stream where it's just like, I don't want to just bend the knee every time someone tells us they're not having a good time here in Austin. But that being one thing where it's like, I'm unhappy with my role, how the team looks, the coaching, production, what have you, is completely different than, hey, I want to be able to be around my family all the time, which it's just night and day. So I can't hold that against the club. And, from that the Verde Nation thing that I saw as well, I believe it was on Instagram.
He had the whole, Logan had like all the slides.
There was plenty talk of, Austin was doing all they could, or, plenty of people in the organization were like, we can't lose this dude. And that's where our initial feelings really came from, because, I still love Buka, and I was really excited about his campaign coming up here, and finding new ways to unlock him. But yeah, man, your game plan kind of blueprint there, I think would have a lot of fans excited. You get that, you spend that TAM on a chance creating 10, you have this speed replacement here in Jayden Nelson, who we can move around a bit. And again, if we look at, I mentioned the implications before, not to sound too much like Dennis Reynolds, but like, we were stashing Mirtu on that left wing when BV was out. We were just kind of like, oh, you're over there now. We tried Buka over there. That was a nightmare. You slot Mirtu onto the left wing spot. This signals to me that you're looking at some sort of two striker build, because I don't want to be Houston and have two DP guys and one of them's the fucking backup to the other DP, So once BV's healthy and we start seeing that, I do think you're going to see formational schematic changes for this team moving forward.
When I think that both John Bell and Jayden Nelson are floor raiser guys at worst.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And if you go 2-4 and you keep the same two DPs, right, which I think where we are today, I think that's the most likely outcome or path we're trying to take here. Are you MLS Cup contenders, like legit contenders? Probably not. You come up short of that. And to get even to knocking on the door of that club of teams, right? There's only a handful, right? Especially the way some of those elite teams are loading up. You're going to have to get ceiling outcomes for Mirtu Azuni. You're going to have the Goss theorem, the second year in La Liga 2, right? BV's going to have to come back and be at the upper end of those ACL recoveries for MLS forwards that we talked about in that study, right? But this is also about, you got to think about what Rodo has told us multiple times, that he's trying to build that team that sustains the playoff level. And then when you are able to, and everything aligns with your contracts and your salary cap and all that, then you can finally make that true push, right, at some point. And I think this might be like, this is a term that I think probably snuffs out a lot of excitement for a potential upcoming season, but almost like a gap year, not in the sense of rebuild, not in the sense of missed playoffs or not competing in an Open Cup or anything like that, but to get to bridge us to 2027 when those major roster changes are rumored to be happening. And then if you can, right, you sell Owen, you get the extra GAM, go back 3-3, and then we're aligned with the global soccer calendar, and maybe summer 27 you bring in the name that maybe you could believe. Let's just maybe get a name from across the pond that we know that can still play, right? I don't know. But this is, again, is so much in flux this week, going in a less than a 48-hour span from I would hate it if we go 2-4 GAM to I see the vision.
Yeah, and I mean, I was saying that even before the Buka departure and the Nelson acquisition here, that this team, you have the bones, you have the structure of a team that if you add some top level talent, you can get to those ceiling outcomes, but I still just don't think and that you're good enough to compete with the Miamis for an MLS Cup. To compete with the LAFCs for an MLS Cup. Like, and I think that's just being realistic.
Sure,
you know what I mean? But in the same kind of sentence here, what could you do to be as good as Miami? To be like, yes, we're going to be able to beat fucking Miami. If like that's the ultimate goal, it's like if the season is we don't win MLS Cup, then it's a bust. What could you possibly do? Yeah. I don't think there's anything that you could do, honestly, to be like, yes, we're going to be able to compete with the greatest soccer player of all time and the legion of mercenaries that they're just bringing in.
Yeah, pay cut goalkeeper of the year.
Yeah, you get St. Clair for cheap now because he wants to play with. I would
turn on Bradley Scott Stuver so fast if he did that shit to us.
Good Lord,
I'm glad he wouldn't. He would never.
We would destroy all the laundromats in Austin. So, and I think, gap year isn't a great term for this because I do think if you do the things that people have speculated, you included, that this is a team that can win an external competition. We just saw a team that did not hit their ceiling compete for the US Open Cup championship. Yeah, so I think that you're going to be able to find ways to compete in those competitions, particularly if we're talking about the blue chip organizations in this league not taking those competitions super seriously. The fact that a lot of those upper echelon teams are not in the US Open Cup this year, you're going to have an avenue to compete in those external competitions. And I think that is something that you can put your focus on. And if you're looking at bringing in a TAM guy, bringing in another U22 type of player who's younger, who you can also develop moving forward, then you do start to see the vision, because I do agree that looking to the 2027 season, when the international break lines up, when we see these roster changes all lined up and the planets have somewhat aligned, is when you can strike. And, Messi will be fucking 40 at that point in time. You know what I mean? So hopefully we're, hopefully he's not LeBron. What's that LeBron tweet? Yeah. Hopefully the fuckery, we'll have to put up with this fuckery much longer. Well, that has not aged well.
12 years ago.
Yeah. So I think all of this stuff is signaling schematic formational change, building towards the future, and looking at improving this team long-term. Again, I don't know who said it early, like this amount of money on a dude who's not a DP or a full on game changer. I hear that sentiment, but I do think that there's a little bit more context to this.
Yeah. Well, and those championship level teams have guys both at the TAM and just the regular senior roster level that play above what their contract says you should, or what you should expect out of them, right? And this is the type of player, Jayden Nelson, that on this 400 and change contract, right, profiles as a guy that can really soar beyond that if he's able to approach his ceiling as a young player. And I think like going into or kind of piggybacking off what you were saying league wide and kind of the competitive balance or maybe lack thereof for teams like us. And right, we are in the boat of the majority of teams.
Correct.
There's like 24 teams are with us, and there's like 6 that can potentially, right, have the global recognition, right, where those guys overseas like, oh yeah, I've heard of Los Angeles, New York, Miami, right? And that doesn't mean we'll never get one of those, but probably not this year. But if we go MLS Cup playoffs back to single elimination, you introduce a higher level of variance. That is what the teams like the 24 others that we are a part of, we need that rather than a best of 3 to pull more upsets. And right, if there's some tweaks around that and it's not necessarily single elimination, what have you, fine. But hopefully that best of 3 is a thing of the past, because it doesn't help if you're going to get, if you fucking 4 or 5 matchup with Seattle, no thank you. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, or you could try to move up the table and find a lesser opponent that we, think you're better matched up with and get them like, 3-6. Again, I don't want to, poo-poo everything and be like, we'll never beat Miami. We'll never beat LAFC. We'll never beat, the Galaxies and things like that. But like, there's plenty of avenues to be in that top 4 this upcoming season if you can go ahead and fill out this roster with more competent players. And I like what you said there with, championship level teams have dudes who routinely outplay and outperform their contracts. What he's coming in and hitting the books at, hell, if he scores a single goal, he'll have outperformed Haider O'Brien, who's making more money than him next year. So like the bar with that contract is low, and I think the ceiling is very high with this dude. So again, I'm excited, man. You got to find ways to improve this roster though.
We did just get our second round pick in here, so we can close out the live stream with a little bit of a player profile with the 47th overall pick in the 2026 MLS SuperDraft. Austin FC selects Stefan Dobrahevich, forward from Akron. And we do have the ASA draft guide here, their little database pulling numbers from Y-Scout. So I get to do my Landon Cottam here for a minute. And from what I was poking around on this database the other night, a roll score of 80 is like the elite prospects in the class. And Dobrahevich, 78.9. So going through here, ASA had him as the 18th overall player. Austin picking up Dobrahevich here at the 47th overall pick. You see a couple player comparisons there. And let me go ahead. I will drop this into the chat for anybody who wants to go ahead and take a look at this dashboard for themselves. There's the link to the ASA draft dashboard. And I don't know who Verde on my mind is, but athletes from Akron have a pretty good history. No, you would appreciate that comment. So taking a peek, let's go ahead and pull up his page from, how do you spell this? Dobrahevich. Let's pull up his page from the Akron Athletics website. Dobrahevich, 3-year player here for the Zips. Let's see. Internationals Academy prior to Akron. 19th rated forward nationally by Top Drawer Soccer as a youth player in that class. Career stats. Okay, 4 years. They did not have his 4th-year bio on his page. So 4-year player for the Zips. This is 75 games. Only 29 starts. This is a player that came on strong in his senior year here at Akron. This past season, 8 goals, 12 assists in 19 starts. That's not too bad, man. A goal contribution a game. It was 21 appearances, so right around there. And for his career, only 28 total starts at the collegiate level, but 75 appearances, 14 goals, and 22 assists. And you're looking at, you maybe get a couple more zooms here. You're looking at the sliders there, progression and creation.
Yeah.
Almost all the way up to the top, right? And again, this is a second round super draft pick.
Yep. Correct.
Like the most likely outcome is he plays 0 minutes ever for the first team. But you're looking to find some of these gems, and there have been second round, even early third round guys that end up making a rotational impact on their club's first team. And so that is, of course, the ceiling outcome here. But if you're looking at what the profile is on the scouting dashboard, and you look at those stats from his senior year, it seems like a decent value swing here at 47 overall.
Yeah, I mean, CJ replacement at the Austin FC 2 level?
Sure, yeah, because he's,
right?
He's not
left
there anymore.
Wing can play some center forward. And I guess, like that might be something we want to touch on with the Nelson get here, is like what that means for CJ, obviously, getting BV healthy, Mirtu, we think sliding back up to the 9 as well. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, obviously I never seen the kid. I looked up the top 3, comparisons there that they had, just to see what it was looking like, but the sliders look good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than the sliders not being at the top.
Shitty sliders for sure.
For those different categories there. Seems kind of mid-pack with the finishing there in terms of his XG per shot, all of that. Again, it's a very small sample, I think, that this, that you're pulling from there on Y-Scout. Of course, the NCAA seasons are right around 20 games, right? Mm-hmm. So this is, basically a half season at the MLS level in terms of your sample size. So checking in once more on the chat here. We see Profe checking in there. He said, what did I miss? Any meltdowns? Not today. No meltdowns today. Maybe in the chat earlier. Maybe in our text earlier when I was bragging about nailing the Nelson trade. But P Mike wants a little more talk on CJ's role. And I think at the first team level, dude, like, I don't think Jayden Nelson being here changes much for Siege. Okay. Like, I think when BV's healthy, CJ slides back into that backup role, and he is the backup where we stand here today for both of the forwards, in my opinion, because no Diego Rubio, and with what CJ proved through the last third of the season last year, like, I think we're all fairly confident that he's at least a backup level MLS player at this point, and he's he's younger than Jayden Nelson. Still a guy who's improving here. So I'm not too worried about CJ. And again, I don't think today's trade really impacts his minutes upside that much, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, Aries wants to see more CJ. And again, I think
we all do.
Right. And I think you're right. I'd rather see CJ coming in as the victory cigar when we're up 2 and trying to hold on to a lead, rather than throwing CJ on because we're trailing and we need a late equalizer or something of that nature. Brian says, I don't quote me, but I think it's pronounced Dobrjevich. Oh yeah, you might be right. We'll find out soon enough. Coming up on 50 minutes here now on the stream, Ian. We just had the team post about the draft pick, so we'll see if they gave us any additional information. Doesn't look like we've got any sort of press release on him as of yet. Not super surprised there. And again, we would expect the 47th overall pick to end up with a second team contract. But crazier things have happened, right? We've got supplemental slots. If Roto thinks he's good enough, or if he proves himself in training camp, then you probably see him pick up one of those 4 remaining supplemental slots. And I still got my fingers crossed that it's 2 or 3 supplemental slots left, because we're going to buy down Ilie or John Bell. Anything else for you here, man, before we shut it down for the day?
No, man. Just again, excited about this get. I think a lot of people are going to like Nelson once they get a chance to see him up close, on a more routine basis.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So appreciate everybody tuning in, right? Whether you caught us live here on the YouTube, we always appreciate our friends jumping in, tuning in, and of course, joining in on the chat. I guess still planning a potential sad live stream here over the next 24 hours or so. So if that transfer of Osman Bukhari does come, you can plan on probably a shorter goodbye stream here in the North End. But regardless of that, we will, of course, be back on Sunday for our regularly scheduled episode. And that'll do it, man. We're heading into Christmas week next week. And again, like I teased on Tuesday, some cool things coming in the North End here over the next couple weeks. So everybody stay tuned. You hit that notification bell on your way out here, or if you're catching it on the replay on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow the show. Hit the notification bell. You know when live streams pop up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on the stream, you hit the thumbs up. You like the video. Help us battle those YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Sunday for another episode. Till then, Heezy. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.
Green smoke, green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe you 22 or a new DP. The fans awake, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who photo shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe you 22 or a new DP. The fans awake, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who photo shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who wrote out shows.